famed investigative reporter Judith Miller and Fox News' military analyst Lieutenant General Tom McInerney. Tom, starting with you, one of the hostages told me in an exclusive interview that he waited and waited and waited, that he and the other hostages went to the airport in Iran that fateful night, and they said it was going to be about 20 minutes. But then the Iranians told them, no, you cannot leave. You cannot leave because we are waiting for another plane to land. General, do you think this was ransom?
It was absolutely ransom. There's no question about it. Trish, there's no question that this was ransom. It couldn't have been done any better than a ransom. The president says, look, we do not support ransom, except he did it. $100 million per hostage. And then what happens in Afghanistan over the weekend? They kidnap an American professor.
Okay, so in other words, maybe other parts of the world now, Judy, actually think that we're willing to pay maybe $100 million a head. I mean, isn't this exactly why we don't pay for hostages?
This is exactly right, Trish, and that's why even though this policy has been reviewed by virtually every president who comes into office, each president comes to the same conclusion: paying ransom. Even though it's very hard to say to the family of someone being held hostage, we can't help you, paying ransom will make Americans all over the world vulnerable to precisely what we've seen in Afghanistan and, by the way, in Iran, because 2 more Iranian Americans have already been picked up there since that money was taken.
You know, you think about poor James Foley and his family, you know, that young man originally from New Hampshire who was executed by terrorists. We didn't pay ransom for him. Why is it that we were willing, do you think, General, to pay in the case of these 4 hostages with Iran?
Trish, it was all tied into the nuclear deal. And the administration would have and did anything they could to consummate that nuclear agreement, which is an absolute disaster. I agree strongly with Senator Cotton on it, and most senators that believe it is a disaster. It is going to cause us more problems in the future, but that's why they did it. The president sold his soul to make this hostage trade and get cash in their hands, fungible dollars that can be used by terrorism throughout the whole Middle East.
You know, it's a scary thought, because obviously we're in pretty unprecedented, scary times, and now, of course, Americans are going to be more vulnerable. Judy, let me ask you about this scientist, this Iranian scientist who was just executed. It turns out that he apparently had come up in some of Clinton's emails. What is the link there, and what do you derive from that execution, if anything?
Well, even though, as you know, Trish, I'm no shrinking violet when it comes to criticizing the policies of this administration, I have to say on this one, the United States warned this scientist not to go back to Iran. They warned him that if he did go back, he would probably wind up in jail and or executed. They told him about previous examples of other people who had tried to return to their countries, and that's what had happened. And yet he was so intent on seeing his son again and being back that he disregarded that advice. It's terribly tragic, but I don't think you can blame the administration for this.
Judy, General, thank you so much. Good to see you guys.